Okay, this session shows a small sample LCA with the activity browser number 3 point something beta version for learning purposes. There are also scenarios created with background and foreground data. And because it's a beta version, it wants an update, so it's also shown how that would be done. So now the activity browser has started, and you see also that databases have been connected already, because that would be the first thing to do. And now we open a project, because first I will show in a retrospective way how to handle the activity browser, and then we do something from scratch. So this is the project I have created before. Let's see. Now we can see the activities down there that have been created with the project. So it's a very small project, it's only for learning. And there is like a concrete cube in the input area, now a concrete cube and transport. And so the result would be a concrete cube on a side, so including the transport. And yeah, what you see now is the mixture, the concrete mix. There are normal ingredients like gravel, sand, water, cement, and 3 components in there have an amount value set to 0. This will be the replacement later for a different scenario. So they are just placed there, and the amount later will be modified. The other activity that has been created is a transport activity by lorry for 100 kilometers as a statement here for transport. So the concrete cube will be transported on a potential site. Now I model those from scratch, and I go back to the default model because the databases are loaded already, so I don't need to redo this. And then I duplicate the default model and rename it. So all the databases that I probably need are still in there. Okay, and then I don't go on a search directly, but first I need to create a process, and I left click in that field below and new process. So I need to give the process a name and select the database. Okay, again, a new process name. So that would be the concrete or the mix. And the product name is then the cube production. A unit is 1 cubic meter, and the location in that case would be Switzerland. And okay. So, and for this process now, I will look for the ingredients I need to add there from the selected database that I want to use. Eco invent whatever you have, and then I can put in search terms, for example, for the cement, for the gravel, electricity, and I need to find those things that will all be mixed and add together to create the concrete cube. So I think I have, this is a little bit speedy because yeah, sometimes it takes a little bit longer until everything can be found, what is needed. But the idea is to search for those ingredients. Just be careful that the location is correct. So that takes some time. And the output then is the concrete mix, as we have defined as an activity before. So that might take some time still. However, when I have all the components I need for the mixture, I will create another process for the transport. I mean, I could have put it also into this first section, but just to demonstrate if something has two or more different processes, which is very often the case, it's no problem, create a new process, and then later there is another process that will join those two steps together. And just to also, it helps keeping an overview of especially if things become more complicated. So, but it's potentially possible also to put it all in one. It's yeah, I'm kind of used to have this kind of order in the projects. So I named it, and yeah, then I have to find a transport activity with a lorry, and as before we said, we want to transport the cube 100 kilometer, and yeah, this is what this activity is about. And then I create a third process, which is putting the concrete cube on a site, which joins the two prior processes to one together, and this is the combination of those two. So this is done with drag and drop. And now I switch from databases to impact categories, and I select a method. In that case, it's environmental footprint 3.1. And there I can select certain impact categories I want to look at. Before I select those details, I will create a calculation setup and save it because I would need that selection to really start the calculation. So it's the environmental footprint for the concrete cube, and then on that little arrow I will select some impact categories I want to look at with those calculations. So the selected impact categories can be pulled with drag and drop to the field below, and also the functional unit, that means the combination activity needs to be put into functional unit. And then with the calculation setup loaded, you can hit run. And the activity browser will calculate. However, because we also want to look at scenarios, we will see some results later, because now we will go through the setup for background and foreground scenarios. And I will stop this calculation at this point. To create one of the scenarios, we go back to the concrete mix, and when we walked through the existing project, there were some components with a amount set to 0, and we will find now these components and create a scenario with those type of recycling material. For that reason, we need to search those materials. Also, I made this a little bit faster, so it's not so lengthy. And also the other materials have a certain amount, which would be like a standard concrete mix amount, and those replacement materials like the gravel and the cement, they will be set to 0. So I select now all these materials and then SDF to clipboard. Open an empty Excel sheet and paste it into this Excel sheet. And then the amount. This column will be copied 2 times. So we have 3 different mixtures of concrete as a result, and then you can alter the numbers and the scenarios also. This will be 3 scenarios, so give them some names in the column, so that will help to identify them. So it should look somewhat like this. And we save it, because this will be loaded then into the software. So back now in the activity browser, we switch to scenario, and we load the Excel file. And this is something we had prepared for this course. There is also a SSP premise file that will give us some scenarios for 2030 and 50, or it was 25, 35 and 2050. So we load this one as well. That is something you can only prepare when you have access to EcoInvent and run it with premise. So we run now this scenario, functional unit set, impact category set, switch to scenario and then run. And then the result will look like this. So there's a whole variety of results. And you can see from this explanation what you're looking at. And yeah, you can have different displays. What you're looking at, that would be the GBP 100 category for the 3 different mixes of concrete that we have put into this calculation. This is usually the space where you look for trade-offs or some results that probably are not so understandable. You can go through the impact categories that have been selected before in the setup. What is also probably interesting is this Sankey. So you can see all the input that will contribute here. And with the line thickness, there is also some indication what is has a bigger impact rather than other inputs. And and you can even display that, for single parts. This would be then only the concrete mix without the transport. And this is how results for this would look like.